Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to today's unboxing, which is a retro Warhammer 40,000 5th edition box set, the Assault on Blackreach starter game for Warhammer 40k. So I picked this box set up for a reasonable price off of eBay. Thankfully it was brand new, sealed in the box. Which I was really pleased about. I did own one of these previously, but lost it, unfortunately. So let's dig in and have a look and see what you got. So as you can see on the back of the box, Games Workshop like to include photographs of their finished miniatures as inspiration to what you could achieve. And within this box set, they actually up to the miniature count, and you got a Space Marine captain, a tactical squad, 5 Terminators, and a Space Marine dreadnought. And then with the Orc faction, you got your war boss, you got 20 boys, you got 5 knobs, and you got 3 death copters. Now the death copters were a brilliant addition to this particular kit, and they are highly sought after even to this day by Orc players. I see death copters being sold on eBay in various conditions, sometimes going for stupid amounts of money, and this is because apart from a metal kit that was included, well, not included in this box set, but a metal kit that was produced, I should say, by GW, this was the first time that there were plastic death copters, and for that reason, that's why they're still highly sought after. So within the box set, you get your standard sea of grey plastic. You get everything basically you need to start and play the game. So you get 4 sprues. You also got a set of templates which were moulded this time round in this hard, clear, neon green plastic, which I felt always looked better than the old style, softer, bendable plastic templates in the kind of opaque white. And you got all the bases you need for your miniatures, which included the flying bases for the death copters. It included the large base of the dreadnought and the 40mm bases for the Terminators. The only downside to this being that the other bases are 25mm slotter bases, which, as many players today will know, the new base size for Space Marines and a lot of the Orcs is 32mm. So I will need to purchase some 32mm bases off of eBay in order to put my minis on the correct size. So looking at the box, let's dig in and get the sprues out. We'll pop those to one side, and what we'll do is have a look at the instructions, get started booklet, and the mini rulebook. Now the mini rulebook was what some used to call digest sized. The reason they called it that was because it was a similar size to a magazine that people can subscribe to called Reader's Digest. Their magazine was of a similar size to this, which is why it was called sometimes the digest sized, or other players just used to call it a compact version or a mini version. Now the rulebook itself mainly, well, it only had the rules to play the game, which was great. You could pop it into your gaming bag and you had the rules to hand, and it was certainly handier than the full-size hardback. You also got the little flyer here, which was called The Next Steps, and it just showed what other minis you could get to help you increase your army size. So the pamphlet itself was in full colour. You had basically everything you needed to get started and play within this book. The instructions, however, were fairly standard fare for the time. I believe this was produced in about 2008, and it went on until about 2012 when 6th edition came in. And as you can see, the instructions are fairly basic. They only include instructions for the copter and the dreadnought, and then you had to fend for yourself when deciding what weapon arms and weapons, etc. you had to put on your orcs and marines. Something that was fairly standard for the time was that none of the parts were numbered. You then got some colour photographs of finished minis, so you could see what you could achieve. It also gave some examples of different Space Marine chapters and orc clans. You then go into setting up for your first game, and on the following pages it talks about your the turn for playing the game. You then go into your data sheets for all the different units within the game, and then on the next page you'll see that it's listed the units, and it's giving you points values which obviously correspond for the time that this game was produced. So the Space Marine points value in total was 585, and the Orc Warband was 450. Going further into the pamphlet, it then gives you some background fluff onto the Imperium of Man. It talks about Space Marines, the universe, the chaos, the alien menace, and at the very back it gives you a quick reference sheet for playing your when you're playing a game. The unfortunate thing is that it didn't include a separate sheet like it did in the Dark Vengeance box set. So if you were playing with a friend who didn't have, who'd never played before and didn't have the rules, etc., you were having to share. The other thing to note for this particular Get Starting book set pamphlet was it didn't have any game-specific missions. So unlike Macragge and Dark Vengeance, it didn't have a narrative set of missions that helped you learn the game. So, looking at the sprues, the first two sprues are the same. And basically they're your main troops, and as you can see you get it's a mix. They're mixed sprues. They weren't separated in any way, shape or form from with regards to factions. So you didn't get sprues that were only Space Marines, and you didn't get sprues that were only orcs. I think this was a missed trick back then, because it meant that despite the popularity of the copters, GW couldn't produce, continue to produce them and sell them as a separate box set on their own. And I think it's a shame that they've not picked up on the fact that so many orc players do like the copters and produced a box set of these as a standalone kit. So looking at the Space Marine sprue, you'll see that you get the main Space Marine characters, and some in the top right you just get some orc weapons and a couple of orc bodies and heads. But you've got on this the Space Marine captain, the Terminator sergeant, the Space Marine sergeant, a few Space Marines, and the dreadnought. Now the dreadnought was, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. So you get your feet, your two weapon arms, your front and back of the body, and then you get the rest of the power fist. And the dreadnought itself, and as with the rest of the Space Marines, didn't come with any chapter iconography on them. The only downside was that the tactical Marines had the standard codex symbol for the tactical squad, which was the upright arrow, and this meant that for myself, who's a Dark Angels player, I had to remove that. So when you look at the Dreadnought, as I said, it's front and rear body and the weapon arms, and the unfortunate thing, and the unfortunate thing is that most of the Dreadnoughts are fairly static poses anyway. But this one was, because it was a monopose mini, they didn't really do much with the pose. The good thing about it was that they added in a multi-melter for the weapon arm. So when you look at the Space Marine Captain, he came in several parts, and I pretty much built him as standard. The only thing I didn't do was use the backpack and banner pole. The tactical squad included a flamer and the rather standard missile launcher, and which was a bit of a shame. Having said that, the Marines themselves, you could put different chapter markings on them if you so wanted. If you had specific upgrades from other kits that you'd bought, you could add extra little details onto the Marines. So looking at the Orc sprue, the Orc Warboss came in about 5 parts. So you had the main torso, the backpack, the head, the power claw, and his bolter arm. He's a great mini, and he's kind of been copied with later versions of the Orc Warboss that has been released. It's not exactly the same, but it's very similar in the pose. You then have the Orc Knobs with their choppers and their sluggers, and you can see the inclusion of the 2 Orc boys that carried the heavy weapons for the Orc Boys knob. Looking at the Deathcopter, absolutely fantastic sculpt, really orky, and as I've said before, there's a lot of Orc players out there that seek these out because they just you can't get a decent set of Deathcopters from GW at this moment in time. As you can see, it's got rockets on the front, and the blades for the copter and the head and arms for the pilot came separate. So these are the 2 sprues that were the same, and as you can see, you got 2 Terminators. You had 8 Orc boys on this sprue, and a Deathcopter and several Marines, and this was duplicated on the sprue that you can see on the table, meaning that a great deal of your minis were going to be repeated. But again, that wasn't a major problem. Now with the Terminators, the thing with the Terminators was, although they came with basically the main torso, the front chest piece and head separate, and the weapon arms separate, they could be customized if you had additional parts lying around, and I have done that. I have been able to put in separate chest pieces which match my Deathwing, swap out the weapon arms for Dark Angels Deathwing specific arms, and obviously use Deathwing Terminator heads in the Terminators to make them different. The only one that I couldn't really do that with was the Sergeant, which was a bit of a shame, but the compatibility with some of the other kits was a good thing. So those are the 4 sprues. We'll start putting this box set back together, and I think it was produced in 2008. I can't remember if I said that, but it was produced in 2008. Games Workshop really started up in their game with regards to miniature count within these box sets. I think in the previous box set you'd only got something like 10 tactical marines and a pilot, and then 20 tyrannid things, along with some terrain items. You can see the decal sheet going in there, which included white scars, imperial fists, and space walls, I think, from the look of it. The other thing that I forgot to mention was that you got 2 range rulers, 18 inches apiece, out of the flexible red plastic, and then you got a bag of dice, which included 6 six-sided dice and your scatter dice for determining what happened to your deep striking units. So all in all, a brilliant box set. It was a nice step up from the McCragg set. I'm glad I've got it, and hopefully you'll join me next time. All right, take care. Bye.